This is a video about Lydia's birth, the story of it. So, Friday night, so a little bit beforehand, when Rebekah was at full term, we did give her some pineapple, which we had read induces labor. She had avoided it this entire time, hadn't had caffeine or licorice or parsley, which can have problems with the development of the child. So at about 38 weeks, we were like, maybe we should start eating some pineapple to get that started. So on Saturday, we had friends over. She was 39 weeks and 2 days. So Becky called me upstairs and was saying she was having some pains, and it wasn't too bad, but just a little bit. And I was like, oh, well, those are probably just the practice contractions. Came back downstairs. I was like, is everything okay? And she said, yeah. So I was like, okay. Went downstairs. About a half hour later, so this was around 9:30, maybe a little bit before. Came back down. There was a few friends here. John Dixon, Rebekah Vaughn, her husband was in the other room talking to Caleb, and Josh Barker. That was everyone, right? Okay. And Becky's behind the camera. What am I thinking?
I called you upstairs, by the way, and I said, I don't want to scare you, but I think these might be contractions.
Yes. So a little while later, around 10, a little bit before probably, I went up there again, and she said they're really, really hurting. And I said, well, honey, do you want me to time them? And I was like, you could come downstairs, and we can still be with friends, and then we can time them and just see, because it's probably nothing. Because you always hear about people that are like, oh no, I'm having some contractions, and they go into the hospital, and then oh, it's a false alarm, and they go back home, and then a little bit later they do the same thing, and they keep having false alarms for a week. And it's Becky's first baby. I didn't think this baby's going to be late, if anything. So we started timing them, and at first she didn't want me to tell the friends, and then eventually we did.
I didn't want to scare them.
Didn't want to scare them. So they ended up actually helping us out. We used Josh Barker's phone to time each contraction. I used my phone to time how long they were apart. An hour went by. They weren't completely some of them were 4 minutes apart. Some of them were 6 minutes apart. All the contractions were more than 45 seconds. They were usually a minute, sometimes longer. In fact, later on, sometimes even 2 minutes, and even 3 minutes long. But then 8 minutes apart a couple times. So after the first hour, called the hospital. They said, you can come in if you want, but it sounds like just practice contractions. So we were like, okay. They said, make sure to give her water and Tylenol for the pain. So I got her a glass of water, and she slugged it down. It was gone, and I was like, she's dehydrated, because it was a hot day. She had helped Kara with her baby shower that day. So, and Becky never drinks enough water anyway. So,
I hate water.
So I got her glass after glass of water. Got her several Powerades. She slugged it down. Sure enough, a little bit later, she threw up, and it was almost all just the water. So a little bit later, we called again about how long they were apart. They were still kind of doing what they were doing earlier. Like I said, with the first hour one, the doctor said, it sounds like, is this the first baby? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, it sounds like they, they're a little bit random still, and you can come in, but probably wait another hour. Well, the second hour we kind of called again. I got a female nurse, and she was like, she doubled over in pain. Can she still talk? And I said, yeah, she can still talk, and she's not quite doubled over. She's in pain, but she's not excruciating pain. And she was like, if this was true labor, she'd be in excruciating pain, and she wouldn't be able to even walk. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is not true labor. Anyway, we had the friends go home, and this was around midnight at this point. We had done about 2 hours. A little bit later, I'm not sure when, we decided to try to go to sleep. We laid in bed and everything, and Becky was like, oh man, I need to pee, but I don't want to do that because I might just be stuck on the toilet again, because she was throwing up and stuff and everything. She was on the toilet just because, when you're pregnant, you have to pee all the time. So I went downstairs to get her some more water or something while she was in the bathroom, And she was like, Eric, and I was like, oh shoot, and I ran upstairs, and sure enough, when she wiped, she had a little bit of like reddish, pinkish, like blood, mucus stuff, and I was like, okay, don't freak out, because she was all, and I was like, it's okay, honey, we're gonna go to the hospital now, because we're gonna make sure. I don't know if this means anything, but the doctor said if there's anything blood or whatever to go in, and whether this is true or not, we're gonna find out, so we're gonna go in. While I was kind of getting a few things ready, we saw the mucus plug, for sure. You cannot get that confused with anything else. So when I saw that, I went, oh, that's what that is. All right, we need to go. So of course, while we're like leaving, Becky's all like, oh, make sure to get this, get some pillows, get some blankets, and I was like, honey, come on, we're bringing you to the hospital. So within a little while, we got in the car, drove up, and of course Becky's all telling me to drive faster, and I'm driving a little over the speed limit, just a little bit, not bad, because if we get pulled over by a cop, it's going to be a lot worse. So I went to the wrong entrance of the hospital. I went to KY Clinic, because UK is like the building's here, and there's another building here, and this is where we usually go. So we went here, and it was all dark, and I was like, oh shoot! I drove, went back in traffic and drove over here, and then it was all dark too. And I went out and I went over to the security officer lady, and she was like, oh yeah, the place where you want to go is just around the corner, just a little further down, the next double doors. And I was like, oh, okay. So then that was this building. This is Kentucky Clinic. This is the building where the lady was. So I drove right back to the Kentucky Clinic, thinking like, oh, so we were at the right place. I didn't go in. I just assumed there was nobody there because I didn't see anybody. So I got out, at Kentucky Clinic, and the door's locked. And I'm like, oh shoot! And Becky's just like, oh, and I'm like, oh no! So I get back in the car, and I call, and I'm just like, look, where do I drop off the baby? And he was like, oh, well, you can go to
where do I drop off the baby?
You can go to the parking garage. Well, I explained the situation. We go to the parking garage, and then you can take a shuttle over. And I went, no, I'm taking my baby. Like, no, my wife needs to be taken in a wheelchair right now. She is in labor. She's not going to be walking around, because also, Becky with her epilepsy, I didn't want her falling, and she had said she was all dizzy and she had been thrown up. I'm not going to, find a place to park in the parking garage and then, get a shuttle over. He said you can take the emergency room. Of course, it took me a little while to find it anyway, because I wasn't exactly sure where it was. Go to the emergency room. Oh, by the way, the place where the security lady was talking about was this same building around the corner, literally. There was a tiny little drive thing. It wasn't a street, just a little drive thing, and that's where I was supposed to take her. The emergency room was on this side of that same building. So brought her there, asked for someone to bring her with a wheelchair, and it took a couple minutes, but someone did. And then I parked in the garage, and got a shuttle over and everything, got a little name tag. I go up there, she's already in the office where you do paperwork stuff, and they just have her in like a normal chair. There's no wheelchair there, which was kind of got me upset, especially with Becky kept saying how dizzy she felt, so didn't really like that. Anywho, so we are so we're filling out paperwork. I know I dated one of them at 3:30 in the morning, and I dated another one at 3:39 in the morning. It was and then they said, oh, just go to triage, it's right past that door, or it's like down the door and on the right or something like that. I don't know how far this all is. And I was like, well, can we get a wheelchair? And they're like, I thought she came in one, and they didn't have one. And it took like 10 minutes just to get a wheelchair. And sure enough, it actually really was extremely close. I didn't realize how close it was. So, but still, Becky kept saying how dizzy she was. So we go over there, and they bring her to a room, which is a triage. We waited, and that was a tiny room. I was not feeling good about this, because, and they said that the reason why is a lot of babies were being born that morning. Just a lot of people had come in, and so a lot of the birthing rooms, whatever they're called, were taken up. So we're in triage. It's a very small room. It's a chair almost like this. Like it's a very vertical, like just barely lean over kind of a chair. Not at all a birthing chair, and I thought that was where they were going to have her birth the baby if she was in labor, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we shouldn't have gone to this hospital. This was a bad mistake. So it was about an hour before we actually had someone come in, other than like show us to the room. It was 4:30 when a couple ladies came in, and ladies like, it's okay if you want. Do you want me to check the cervix? And we're like, yeah. So she goes like this. She goes, okay. She checks it, and she goes over to her assistant. The baby's crowning. She's at 9 centimeters. And I go, what? I said it just like that, like really loud.
And I kept saying, I don't think I can do this.
Oh yeah, in the triage, Becky kept saying, I don't think I can do this there. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I... And I was like, you can do this, honey. You can do this. You've got this. You've got this. You're good. You're good. You're stronger than you know. You've got this. We had recently decided to go completely natural. Becky was wanting to do an epidural. Didn't really have an opinion of Pitocin at the time, but later on we decided that we didn't want that. We wanted everything to be as natural as possible for various reasons. But like one of them is just about chemicals in your body, and how Pitocin's artificial and it doesn't give you the same feeling afterwards. Anyway, I'm sorry, honey. Becky's telling me to wrap that part up. I'm a talker. So very quickly, they were all like, okay, suddenly it was hustle and bustle, because they need to get her to the actual birthing room, because 9 centimeters is pretty close. 10 is give the baby. So, and Becky's all like, what does that mean? What's going on? And I go, Becky, you're going to have a baby. You're going to have a baby tonight, like, really soon. And I was like, we're going to, you can do this. Because earlier she had said, like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to do this tonight. And I was like, I hear you, honey, because it's late, but you never want to do it. You're never ready for it. So, so not very long later, they brought her to a birthing room. A lot of hustle and bustle. There were 2 black ladies, a resident and an OBGYN named Donna, and the Brittany was the name of the resident. Very, very nice ladies. Very sweet ladies. So, Becky's having contractions. I'm all telling her, just ride them out. Just let them happen. Be relaxed. Don't tense up. Don't push. Just breathe. Breathe out of your mouth so you don't clench down, because you need to relax so that you'll have energy later to push when it's time to push. It was an hour. It was 5:30, and Becky was only at 9.5 centimeters. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Maybe a half hour later. Not sure how much later. See, I might be getting this part a little bit wrong. But a little bit later, they checked her again, and she wasn't too far. And they went ahead and they asked if they could make the water break. And I was like, yeah, it'll make the contraction stronger, but it'll speed things up. So we were like, yeah, that's fine. And it wasn't as much water as I thought. It wasn't that much. People say it's a ton, and maybe it's different when she's lying there already ready. So a little bit later, there was a certain point when a bunch of people came in, and because the baby's heart rate was going down. I see the heartbeat, but I don't know how far anything is, because sure enough, during a contraction, the baby's heartbeat skyrockets, and then it goes back down. Like it changes a lot during each contraction. Oh, and we've got to say this, when she first came into the baby birthing, Donna, the OBGYN, a little bit older lady, she goes, what would you rate the pain, 1 to 10, 10 being, your arm's cut off. And Becky goes, 6? And they were like, 6? She's a trooper. And they're like, wait, you're not having a contraction right now, are you? And she goes, no. And they're like, okay, what's the pain during a contraction? She goes, 8? And they were like, 8? Look at her, she's the best.
They said if 10 is hit by a bus.
That was later. They didn't say that. They said arm cut off.
Oh.
Hit by a bus. Someone else said that later.
Okay.
In fact, that was after the baby was born. Somebody said that. It's okay. You remember one of them. a little bit later during the contractions, Becky did eventually at some point, when she's actually really feeling the need to push, but it's too early for that yet, because you don't want to push until you feel like you need to have a bowel movement, because the baby being that close, will feel like that, because it's around that same area. So Becky was all like, I feel like I need to push. And I'm like, don't push, breathe. I even
Breathe through your mouth so
I was
you don't
blowing
down.
in her face, which seems mean. But that was like to get her to like, this is how you breathe. You breathe heavy, breathe hard, just do it. And and sure enough, sometimes when I did that, Becky was going, She never yelled at me. She didn't call me any names. The most Becky ever did was give me a kind of a mean look. She did that a few times, but that's all. Because I'm all like yelling at her. So later on, Becky was like 9, and then a little later she goes 10, and even a little bit after that, at one point in time, she goes 10, 11, 10. Like she was correcting herself. So a bunch of people came in because the baby's heart rate was going down, and that got us scared. Becky's on an oxygen mask, and Becky's getting extremely worried. I'm trying to be calm, although I am also panicking. I'm just like, it's okay, honey. They're just doing that so the baby gets more oxygen, And they were talking about like, we need to get this baby out. So like, do you feel like you need to push? And Becky was like, yeah. And they're like, if you feel like you need to push, if you feel the bowel movement part, just push, go ahead and do it. And oh my goodness, Becky's so good. First time she did it, I saw a little bit of the baby's head, just a little bit of it, and I saw like a little bit of hair and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, Becky, I was like, you did great. I was like, I can already see the head. So we had her push again, and oh man, in each push, Becky just looks exhausted. She's red in the face. She's going like this and doubling over, just on her side. The poor thing.
They turned me on my side.
Yeah, a little bit earlier they did turn her on, before all of this, to get the baby more into position. They turned her on her side, and like the moment she did, they were like, oh, we need to move the heart rate over because the baby just moved. Like it worked. Anyway, so she's pushing. We're backtracking there. So she's pushing, and I can see a little bit more of the head, but they're not getting very far. And so then they bring out the vacuum thing, which is just, it's hand operated, which I didn't have that big of an opinion of it, but I didn't want to do because I didn't want damage. So I was like, well, we are not comfortable with this. And he goes, it's that or C-section. And I was like, okay, have those options. Now I will say I think even then I didn't realize that the baby's heart rate was down. So I think I didn't realize there was that. I was kind of thinking more like, why not just like, I know she's exhausted, like let's let her push the normal way. So we come to find out, so Becky's pushing, and she's pushing, and somebody even said, push through the pain, and I said, just push with everything you've got, push, especially after he said that C-section thing, and it didn't get suction one time, and then it did get suction, and I was just like, oh, I don't even remember what I said. I may have said like just push for me, like I think I said, you have to do this, because I didn't want her, I didn't want her to be taken away, and then anesthesia, and then C-section. I was just like, oh my gosh, and Becky was even saying, oh God, but she was saying that, she even told me later, she was praying, God, please, just let this baby, be okay, and let this baby, happen. But when they got suction, the first try, they got that baby's head out. I mean, Becky was pushing like a mad woman, and boom, there's the head, and then you see the umbilical cord was wrapped around her head 2 times. So then they're all cutting it, and then Becky's all, no, I want my husband to cut the umbilical cord. I'm like, honey, it's fine, because I saw what was going on and she didn't. So I was like, it's fine, honey, it's fine. I didn't want to tell her what was wrong, so I didn't want her to panic. So of course she had to push again, but after the head's, it's smooth, it's no problem after that. I'm sure she didn't feel the same, but so the baby comes out. They very quickly take the baby not into the other room. It's like, here's the room, here's the bed, here's the main doors. There's kind of some other doors here, like almost like a small room, but it's part of that same room. If that makes sense, just the wall here. And I saw like there was like 7 doctors in there, all picking up stuff and doing different things. But oh man, I was crying. I was crying my eyes out. Tears of joy. I was all snotting up my shirt, and I was just like, Becky, we have a little baby. We have it. I was like, she's here. She's here. She's normal. She's beautiful. I kept saying, she's beautiful. She's so beautiful. And Becky kind of looked over and she goes, that's her? She's out? And I was like, yes, she's out. She's out. And she was like, and then and she cried a little bit. And then Becky goes, that's her? And I was like, yes, that's her. So then they, it was only a couple minutes maybe, brought the baby out and brought her just, straight on Becky. Just, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I don't even know what else to say about that part. I don't even know what else. I don't know what I said or what Becky said. It was very, very wonderful. I suppose that's the end of the story. The only other thing is that, like, the placenta was a little bit, where the cord goes was in the wrong kind of spot. It was on the edge instead of the middle or something like that. It's not too rare, but I remember they mentioned it. And so the reason why Becky couldn't push it out is that the umbilical cord is taking up more room. So it's a bigger opening for her to push through. And if you think about it with the umbilical cord, like, connected to the placenta too, I don't know, this isn't what they told me, but I imagine, that probably is part of the reason there was an issue. They did specifically say that because it was there, it was harder to push. But man, everyone said she did such a good job. The lady that had been with us, Donna, she was like, oh, she was so good. You were so good. And we were just, Becky and I were just crazy happy. And then not too long after, I took the first video. That was, at 6:50 a.m. So that's the story of Lydia being born. Thank you. The other button.